Welcome to the We Are VIP podcast. Each week, your host, Casey Hasten, Director of Recruiting at VIP, will bring you valuable insights from thought leaders, introduce you to incredible companies, and bring you tips for landing your dream job from our team of executive recruiters at VIP. And now, Casey Hasten.
Welcome to the We Are VIP podcast, a podcast devoted to adding value to your career or candidate search, brought to you by VIP. I'm your host, Casey Hasten. I'm an executive recruiter, director of recruiting with VIP, and your all-around hiring guru. And I have got such a fun guest for you today. So let me tell you a little bit about him. So today on the show, I'd like to welcome Adam Tarnow, co-author of The Edge, How to Stand Out by Showing You're All In. Adam also owns a leadership development firm based right here in Dallas, where he creates specialized training to give professionals the soft skills they need to be outstanding leaders. So thanks for joining us today, Adam.
I'm very excited to be here. This is great.
I think the story of how we met is one really worth sharing.
Yes.
So tell our audience how we met.
We met over email, right? Wasn't that where it actually started? Was because I spoke, I think, at a Dallas CPA Society event or a Dallas CPA event. It was their big convergence conference that they do every year. And so somebody was there in the audience. That's part of the reason I go and do those events, because you never know who you're going to meet. And you must have been talking with this person, and they said, I think I've got somebody that'd be good for the podcast. And next thing I know, here I am.
Here you are, about time. And you didn't even get lost. I'm so proud.
No.
So the person that shared your background with me was Tanya Cedarhall.
Okay.
She is with Bland Garvey, I believe.
Okay.
But she also belongs to a couple of different organizations, and I love this because this really emphasizes the power of networking, right?
Yep.
So she belongs to an initiative that I support, which is Success North Dallas Young Executives, but she also belongs to the Texas CPA Dallas, which you have such an interesting background to how you got to speak to the CPAs. So we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
But so she had approached us because they're trying to build up their young professionals about co-sponsoring an event. And we did, and it was a huge success.
That's awesome.
And that's when she was telling me about you. And of course, now she's got credibility with me, right? No, seriously.
That's
when
awesome.
I did some light stalking on the internet to kind of check you out. And then I was like, oh yeah, I'm reaching out to him. And you were so gracious.
Well, thank you, Tanya. I appreciate the connection.
Absolutely.
Really
Thank you, Tanya. We do appreciate that.
Yes.
So I kind of alluded to the fact that you've got a really interesting and diverse background. So tell us about yourself and from start to finish. How'd you get from where you started to where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, really, the only way I know how to describe it, or the metaphor I use right now for all the Gen Xers and Boomers out there that used to watch Seinfeld, I feel like my career journey has really been like a Seinfeld episode where you have all these different plot lines and you don't know how they're going to connect, and then at the end they connect, and you're like, oh, that makes total sense. And so I had some very strange plot lines in my career journey. This was not part of the plan, but everything started off on plan, and that was is that I was born in the Washington, D.C. area, went to Clemson University in South Carolina, studied accounting when I was there, never changed my major. My grandfather's an accountant, my dad's an accountant. My birthday's April 16th. I was destined to be an accountant. So I went down there, I was gonna study accounting, got my accounting degree, got a job in Atlanta with one of the big accounting firms to do audit, and everything was going great. And so I just
You're like on the
career.
perfect career path for an accountant.
Yep, that was
Big
exactly what I needed to do. So probably 25, 26 years old, I go through a quarter life crisis of, is this really what I want to do? Is this the best use of my gifts and my skills? And so long story short, 2002, I move out here to Dallas to start graduate school, want to start another career, and ended up getting married. Thought I was going to be here just a few years and then go back somewhere else. I didn't think I was going to be in Dallas for what's been now 20 years. This is the longest I've lived anywhere. Met my wife, we got married, we bought a house, we had kids, and then the roots just go deep. And so all said and done, I did about 10 years as a CPA, 8 of those in public accounting, 2 of them with a big retailer here in town in their accounting department. And then I did about 10 years complete career change and went to go work for a nonprofit organization here in town for, candidly, a big church here in town. I was on staff at a church. So I did like pastoral ministry for 10 years, accounting for 10 years. And then in 2020, the thread that really kind of connects both of those is leadership and leadership development. And that's always been a passion of mine. And so in 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic, I thought, what a great time to start a business focused on developing leaders, where you have to get in front of people and talk and teach. And that sounds like a great idea. And but it's been a really fun ride and a fun journey. And so that's what I've been doing the past 2 years. Started a consulting firm focusing on developing leaders, which really, this is where it all comes together. I mean, everything I learned in my 10 years as an accountant, organizational life, leadership, everything I learned in pastoral ministry about people and leadership, it all comes together. And so I really get to use both of those career tracks, which has been a lot of fun.
That is so interesting. And I love that you had that awareness early on that, is this really what I want to do? Because, I think I told you this, I kept on for 20 years doing a career I didn't love. And so it's so easy to get misaligned when you're young. It really is.
Yeah. And I mean, it takes courage because all those changes, candidly, there's compensation changes. And usually when you make a change in a career change like that, it's not more compensation. It's usually less. And that's part of the cost of following your heart a little bit and following what you feel like you're good at. And that stuff eventually catches up, which I think, when I talk about that in the book that I know we'll talk about here in a moment, about for a lot of young leaders when they're on that journey, trying to figure out what does motivate them. That's one of the things that I feel like I do have a little bit of credibility and experience to tell them, which is don't chase the money. The money will work itself out. Try to figure out what truly motivates you. What are you best in class at? And go find those things. And if you can build a career around that, which, thank goodness we're in America and there's a lot of opportunity and you can really use your skills in a lot of different ways nowadays. And so that's been part of my journey, and it's fun to help others on that journey.
I love that we are so aligned kind of in our purpose and our path, because I literally had this conversation earlier today with a young lady, 1.5 years, Big Four. And we weren't talking about getting her a new job. This wasn't a cold call. This was a referral. It was actually from her godfather.
Okay.
And he lives in California, and she's here, and he's like, she needs to get plugged in. Can you help her? And so I'm like, of course I can, And so we're on the phone, and the whole time it was so interesting to me. Recruiting never came up. And that's what I do for a living. That's how I get paid. And the only reason I'm saying that is because I know that's going to come back to me. And I always tell people, give value first, the money will follow.
Absolutely.
And I was telling her that too. I was like, you need to find out what it is that you love to do, what your passion is, so that you never work a day in your life. And the money will follow.
It typically does. I mean, it doesn't always. I mean, there's certain, we were talking before we hit record what we ate for breakfast. I also love peanut butter, right? I'm not going to be able to get paid to eat peanut butter. So I can't follow that passion for the rest of my life. I can't just sit around and eat peanut butter and watch old Seinfeld episodes and somebody's going to pay me for that. So it's got to have some reason. There's got to be some value that you can add to somebody else to be able to do that. But yes, generally speaking, the money does work itself out.
Really good point. Thank you for that. So tell me about your leadership development and how specific leadership training can help improve an organization. Because I know that we're lacking this so much nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been a hot topic. It always will be a hot topic. Wherever you have organizations filled with more than one person, you're going to have the need for leaders, and you're going to have some leaders that need to be trained, right?
Yes.
So unfortunately, for really great reasons, there's not a lot of training on some of these, what we traditionally call these soft skills, in colleges and universities and graduate programs and things like that right now, which I get. They're busy. There's so much technical, so many technical things that they need to cover, that covering some of these relational skills and leadership skills are not always in there. But yes, what you just said is right too. What I've seen and what I really believe is that anything you want to improve in your organization happens by improving your leaders. And so any business owner right now or leader in an organization, whatever it is, if you want to improve your sales, if you want to reduce costs, if you want to improve your brand value, if you want to improve your market share, whatever it is, leaders are going to be needed to execute on that. And so when you improve your leaders, you improve whatever it is in your organization that you want to improve. But unfortunately, leadership skills don't just develop naturally. It's not one of those things that you just kind of figure it out. That is one way you can do it, but there are some simple skills and just some basic principles that if you can take some time to just sit down and focus on it for a period of time, you can start to understand, okay, this is how you lead and serve other people, right? And so some of those skills are things like communication and coaching and conflict resolution and delegation and different things like how you build culture. I mean, it's just this list. I've got about 12 or 13 different topics that I go through when I talk to leaders that I'm training. All of it really geared towards how do you apply this today to help improve your organization. And we're seeing great results, right? And so it's been a lot of fun.
That is so awesome. So I am so grateful that I get to sit at the feet of so many greats. And one of those that I've learned a lot from has been Jeff Crilley, who owns a studio. And he was telling the story the other day, and every time I'm with him, I just learned something new about how when he had decided that this was going to be a family business, because his son and daughter both work here and very in leadership roles, and how he actually hired a coach for his daughter for 2 years to teach her those very skills. And this is back, I would say that coaching has probably really hit its stride maybe in the last 4 years, maybe.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, and some of those things that I saw in the pandemic, the hot industries, if you will, and jobs, I mean, coaching was near the top of that list. Now, coaching can mean 100 different things.
Right.
So you've got some life coaching, professional coaching, executive coaching. I mean, our culture is used to hiring one-on-one help right now. And so we do that in our personal life, right? Like I've got, as I'm trying to pick up the game of golf again, I hire a coach, right? To help me with that. We hire personal trainers. We hire people to help us design our homes or whatever it is. So we're very used to tapping into experts who know a little bit more than us, who understand how to motivate people. We're very used to that. And now we're seeing that also plays out in leadership. And so, yes, there are some things that are done training-wise where you can read a book, sit in a class, talk to other people, but coaching is certainly a part of it as well.
Yeah, I just thought that was so, because this was probably 5 or 6 years ago, that was so forward thinking of him. And I think the real purpose of a coach or any type of place where you invest in yourself is to collapse that timeline to success, right?
Yeah.
That's what, with the young executives, that's what I'm trying to teach them is that, by, looking at what I'm doing today and what I can teach you how to do today, you don't have to learn how to do it on your own.
That's right.
You're going to get there so much faster.
Yep.
And I think that's what a coach does, and it sounds like that's what you're doing with the people that you're bringing up. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, all training, right? So it can be in that group training or the one-on-one training. I really like the way that's said. Yes, you may be able to figure this out eventually.
Yeah.
But if we have some intentional effort towards it, we can shorten that timeline and get you there a little bit faster, which who doesn't like that? Right?
I totally stole that from somebody, so I'm not gonna lie. But I added a little twist on it.
Right. Well, creativity is just forgetting your sources. That's all it is,
Oh,
right? So that's
I love
fine. That was all you. That was all you.
I can't help it. one of my core values is authenticity and integrity. And so like if I say something somebody else said, I have to give credit.
Oh, that was not me.
It would just gnaw at me,
I get it.
So what are some of and you've kind of mentioned a few of them, but what essential skills do leaders need in order to create success within their organization? I want a really clear example.
Yeah, so I mean, I think obviously you've got 2 or 3 basic categories here, which would be vision. So anything that is forward looking, that's a key skill. So leaders, I like the way my friend John McGee talks about this, and now I'm gonna have to give credit, right? Because it's not mine, so you got me feeling.
Made you feel bad, didn't I?
Anyway, but John McGee talked about this idea that leaders they live in the future, and then they come back, and they're like, "Come on, let's go," right? And so some aspect of what's going on in the future, where do I see the organization going? Where do I want my life to go, our family to go? Where do I want this team to go? So vision is going to have to play some aspect of an essential skill for leadership. Is just dreaming about what could be, what should be, what ought to be, and taking that time to think about where are we going, right?
Yeah.
Where are we going? So that's one essential skill. There's going to have to be something around results. Right, so we want to make sure that we're winning. So whatever those results are for your organization, if it is expanding market share, increasing sales, reducing cost, opening new offices, whatever it is, great leaders can make sure that things are getting done. And then the third bucket, I would say, is something around people, because you can't do anything great alone, right? And so you've got to be able to galvanize and inspire and communicate well so that you can get the people to be moving towards those results so you can ensure that great future. So those are 3 of the main, like if I think about essential skills at the bare level, there's going to have to be some vision, some results, and then something with people and making sure that you can interact well.
And I often reflect on, my current company, because I think I mentioned this to you when we talked, that I have never worked for a company such as this. And it is absolutely amazing and refreshing, and I love to get up and go to work in the morning and be with the people there. But the leadership is also, and that's what I'm thinking of, because if you think about it, starting a podcast, when you're a recruiting agency, that requires a lot of vision.
Certainly does, yeah.
That was huge. That was very forward thinking, like you said.
Yeah.
And then coming back, and like here we are 3 years later, like when we first started, we're like, I don't know.
That's right.
What's this going to look like? But
yeah, and you have to have that vision gives you that momentum, because your first couple episodes you put out there and you don't know if people, do they even know what's out there, and how do you get that brand awareness? And so some of that fortitude to be able to continue on down the path that you're convinced of is really essential in leadership as well, and keeping all those people inspired.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're like, we tried this, we don't even know if it's working. No, it's gonna. Let's keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so interesting, because now that we're 3 years into this, it's to the point now we're like, all right, we did it. Let's make it bigger.
Yep.
And so I'm like, let's go.
And so you got me.
Exactly.
No, I'm kidding.
So I know we talk a lot about culture and how important that is. And so especially like, how can a job seeker identify red flags during an interview about the culture?
Yeah.
And I just had this conversation with I always say that, but I really did just have this conversation with a candidate. So I'm curious to hear your take.
I like, and this was a really thoughtful question to think through, because if I'm answering that after having some time to think about it, I think the question I would ask is, some of your top performers right now in the organization, where did they come from? Okay. And so my family and I have got two boys, a 13-year-old and a 12-year-old, and my 12-year-old plays a lot of baseball. We're a big baseball family. We like watching baseball. We're trying to visit ballparks, and we've seen 12 of them so far. And so baseball is a big deal. So I think about the teams that are having so much sustained success right now have a great farm system, meaning their minor league teams. That's where a lot of their talent is coming from. And so they have this great system of developing great young players. And so then those great young players are making it to the major leagues. I'm thinking about the Dodgers right now. I'm thinking about the Padres. And there's some teams that are really experiencing success. And part of their success is not that they just went out and spent a bunch of money on free agency, that they grew their leaders at home. And I think if I'm talking to an organization and I just want to know what the culture of development and leadership is like, that's a fair question. Where some of your top performers right now, where do they come from? Did you have to woo them away from another organization, or have they been around for a while? Because that'll let me know, number one, are performers feeling like there's a light at the end of the tunnel here, that there's a path to success. Performers are being rewarded with more opportunity. So that would, I think, be the first question I would ask, is where are the all-stars coming from right now?
I think that's brilliant, actually. I really do. And I'm sitting here thinking, because if you think about it, and you're familiar with this world, the Big Four, the Big Four public accounting firms, now that I think about it, they very rarely hire at any level other than entry, straight out of college.
That's right.
And they hire the best of the best, and they teach them.
They do. And and there's a little bit of a numbers game, because the numbers that they hire versus who makes it to partner, there's obviously some attrition there. So they may play some of that numbers game. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's an exception, and somebody will email us. But but most of the time, somebody that's making partner at one of the Big Four, they started there, or at least started in that industry. Maybe they started at Ernst & Young and then went over to Deloitte, or maybe they started at PwC and then went to Deloitte, whatever it is. But it's not like they got the CFO from another big company in town and said, hey, come be an audit partner. Right?
Exactly.
And so they're very used to developing their own talent. So if I'm talking to a young candidate or a young leader and saying, what's a great organization to go work for? Well, you can point to those firms and go, those are great. They're going to develop you. There's tons of opportunity. There's not only opportunity in your city, there's opportunities around the world.
You're going to work 2 years in one.
That's right. Now there's going to be a lot. There's a lot.
Double the experience.
but at least you've got hope to know they've got a development plan, there's a track, and they have a track record of being able to develop great leaders.
Well, in our world, that's kind of the gold standard of an accounting career. You start off in Big Four, you move into industry, and then you grow your way up. So, people, and this is probably too much information, but when we talk to our clients, we get a lot of, I want a Big Four public combo CPA. That's it. That's the magic mix right there.
Yep.
So I'm sure you've heard that. So are you still a CPA?
I keep my license. It's in my wallet over there. Like I still keep it.
'Cause you worked hard for that.
Yeah, I did. And so I don't let it lapse. But I take the non-practicing exemption every year. But I still pay the state to keep that license active.
Oh my gosh, I can totally understand why you would do that. I told you my story about the CPA, didn't I?
No, what is it?
Well, I did the whole career thing and then found myself having to look for a job. And at the level I was at, you typically don't get hired unless you have a CPA. So I thought, I'll go back and get my CPA. This is not going to say how long years out of school, right?
Yeah.
That's when I switched to recruiting.
That's a good move.
Tough test.
It is a tough test.
That's not the only reason, but I won't lie, that was part of it.
Oh, it's a beast.
Yeah.
It's a beast.
And I talk to people all the time that have let it lapse, and I'm like, are you insane?
Yep.
Why? Why would you work that hard?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you just finished your book.
Yes.
The Edge.
Yes.
Tell me about it. Tell me everything.
Yeah. So just finished kind of, right? So these are long processes, as I'm sure you know. So yeah, we started, I wrote with a buddy of mine named David Morrison.
Okay.
We've been friends for a long time. And so David and I started in about, I really think it was like January 1st or 2nd of 2021 of, maybe started off with some altruistic kind of, let's write a book to our 25-year-old self, right? And what is it going to take to be successful to that young emerging leader? We both laugh and joke about it this way, that we have spent most of our career in middle management, and we just understand the pressure that is there in middle management, where you've got leaders from above that are barking orders down and they have high expectations, and you've got a team below you that is, gimme, and just that pressure of being stuck in the middle. And so we really wanted to try to encourage that person, that emerging leader. What are some ways to show that they're all in? And so that's where it really started. As we got into the research, we also realized that now maybe is the greatest time in the history of corporate America to stand out, because employee engagement statistics are just abysmal. They're terrible. And so there's one way to look at that, which is, oh my gosh, that's really bad. And there's so much literature that's out there to the leaders, the team leaders, going, it's your fault. You got to try harder. And in some ways that's right. The leaders are responsible for that. But I think there's another side to that conversation. And that is, hey, emerging leaders, the bar is low. Like, it is really low. It does not take much to get noticed right now. So one of the big, hot topics that I'm seeing a lot out on LinkedIn right now is this idea of quiet quitting.
I was just about to ask you about that.
Yeah, quiet quitting. So it's just people
crazy.
Just going, I'm just giving up, right, and I'm here. And I'm sitting there going, that's fine, right? You can make your own choices. But anybody that's professionally or career minded, I'm going, you got an opportunity right now, and it's amazing. And so what are the simple things you need to do to give your career an edge? And that edge is an acronym, and it stands for energy, diligence, growth, and endurance. And so if you can be somebody that every day shows up with a positive attitude, that diligence of the care and persistence that you show towards your job, you have this growth mindset for you as a person and for the organization, and you have endurance, right? You have the ability to bounce back from adversity. That, if you can just do those four things, just watch out, because the bar's low, everybody's quiet quitting, and you are going to have bosses that are just going, you're a superstar. Here's more opportunity, right? And so that's what we want to do, is be able to help out that emerging leader, just giving them a cheat sheet on how to be successful.
I love that. So if you had to pick one of those areas, which one would you pick to talk about, and maybe not as being most important, but being super important to that emerging leader?
Yeah, I think right now, especially, you and I are recording this, not to timestamp it, but in 2022. So we are a couple years into this pandemic. We're a couple years into a lot of bad news, right? And so I think right now, energy is the one that is the one that I keep thinking about, even for my own life. Here's what's interesting. Now that the book is it's done and we're getting it published, I'm also looking at this going, you never outgrow these four components.
Yeah.
So this is the way for me to keep my edge as a professional, nearing 50, is I still need to bring positive energy, take my job serious, want to grow, and be able to bounce back from adversity. So the one for me that I think is really important is that energy piece, because it is so easy. It is so easy right now to become pessimistic, to just believe the sky is falling, and to just come in with your shoulders down and just like, can you believe what they did again? In the organization, gossip is rampant. There are so many people that want to just kind of tear you down and bring you on their negative journey with
Yeah.
you. And so just to bring some positive energy, which would be some optimism, some gratitude, being motivated. You do those three things, and I think your whole team, but especially your boss, is going to go something different about you.
Yeah. I will tell you, probably one of the best things that I ever did in my life, both personally and professionally, is I quit letting people share negative stuff with me, like the gossip.
Yep.
Not like if somebody's hurting or something's
for
happened in
sure.
their life,
Yeah.
but I'm talking about those people that want to make stuff up, because it usually is made up.
Yep.
They think it's real, but it's made up. They filled in the gaps, and what they didn't know.
Yep.
And then they tell you all this stuff. And I'm thinking of one person in particular that I used to have this issue with. I mean, she would just feed my head all day long about how horrible the people were around us. And I was like, felt so sorry for her. And I started believing her. And I was like, and finally one day I woke up and I was like, this isn't truth.
No.
And as soon as I cut that off, my whole energy level just completely changed.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It is so contagious. I think the positivity can be contagious.
Yes.
And the negativity is certainly contagious. And you're right, it does take that, what is potentially an awkward conversation, to say, hey, I don't need that anymore, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to limit some of this.
You can tell me what you bought when you went shopping the other day.
That's right. And if you've got a real issue that you need to brainstorm with me on how to engage in a conversation with somebody that's frustrating you, I'm all in for that.
Yes.
But if you just want to go, can you believe? I mean, first of all, I hear those words and I still am like, well, no, but what is it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I want to hear that gossip, I really do.
Yeah.
But it's pretty toxic for my heart to hear it over and over and over again. So,
Yeah.
so that one really stands out, that energy, that positive energy.
That is one thing that I really work on, is that, I'm sure your grandparents, your parents probably told you this, but if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all.
right,
How many
yeah.
times did you hear that growing up? You know?
Quite a bit.
Exactly. But it's so true.
Yep.
I'm seeing so many things that my grandparents and my parents used to tell me when I was growing up, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
you told me that's what that means.
that's right.
Garbage in, garbage out.
That's right.
It's another good one.
Yeah, and now there is a qualifier to put on this, because I mean, it's like, if we see terrible things happening in our organization, that is not the time to go, hum diddly yo, it's all great, right?
Exactly.
So if you see there is lying, there is cheating, there is stealing, there is just some horrible things that are happening
Yes.
there, speak up, right? That is okay. You don't have to have a solution. Just go, we need to work on this.
Yes, I agree with that.
90% of the other stuff, though, is just like, listen, they're just trying to pull you off sides with their negativity. And you got to watch that.
I can't stand that.
Yes.
This has been amazing.
Well, thanks. Yeah,
I
it's been fun.
really appreciate you coming on the show today,
Yeah.
but nobody gets out of here without answering our VIP questions.
Let's go. Let's go. I'm ready. I've got my answers.
You do?
I do.
Okay.
I do. All right.
All right, so if you were chosen to be one of the first colonists on Mars, what 3 things or people would you take with you?
Number 1, my wife.
Okay.
Because I love her and she's the best, right? And so I would want to be on Mars with her. I'm not going to bring my kids.
Interesting. I was
because
curious about that.
I don't know what's going to happen up there, right? And so until we can make sure this is for real, then I'll bring them. So,
Okay.
but I'm taking my wife with me. I want my laptop. I assume that there's going to be the internet, right? So I want to be able to send emails and watch YouTube and all that kind of fun stuff. And then I'm bringing my golf clubs because I want to set the course record. The first course on Mars, I'm setting the course record.
serious
right?
about this.
Those are the 3 things I'm going to bring to Mars.
You know what? And I meant to ask you earlier too, because you do something that's so interesting when it comes to personal development. And we were talking, and I love this, and I know we've read a lot of the same books, but you actually rate your books.
Yeah.
Tell us about your rating system.
Yeah, this is my biggest accounting nerd. If I haven't convinced you yet that I'm a CPA at heart, then this will do it. But yeah, it's maybe 10, 12 years ago, I just sat down to say, can I write down in an Excel spreadsheet every single book I remember reading? And so it started 10 years ago where I went back and I'll write down who the author was, what was the name of the book, what was the year it was published, what year did I read it, and then I give it a ranking on a scale of 1 to 5.
That seems like such a small ranking.
I know, but if when you
Can you do
else
like
will be a
4.5?
7. Yeah, and I'll do 0.5s, but I won't
Okay.
do 0.25. So you can do, you can have a 2.5. So it's 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, all the way up to 5. And so it's been great. And then now every time I read a book, after I'm done, I put it on the bookshelf and then I go to my little spreadsheet and I just fill it out and keep track. So it's a way for me to keep track of all the books I've read. And
That is awesome.
Yeah, so
you
it's
need to
been
read
fun.
the one I just recommended, The Compound Effect, and tell me what you think.
Yes, okay.
I need to
I
know
will do
what
that.
rating it gets.
Okay, I will do that.
Okay. See if I'm allowed to recommend any more books.
That's right.
Okay, so what is one thing you do each morning to set your day up for success?
Yeah, I mean, right. I think that's probably,
Yeah?
it's, I'm on a streak right now of 530 some odd days in a row of
Wow.
waking up and writing at least one sentence of content. And
That's awesome.
It's been one of the best things I've done for my professional life and my personal life is just, obviously you get up, you get the coffee, all that kind of stuff, but then sit down and just go, the first thing I'm going to do before I get to anything else. Most of the time it's the first thing. I mean, every once in a while, there's other things I need to do, but I'd say 95% of the days, that's the first
pretty
thing
awesome.
I do is to do some writing.
That is pretty awesome. I
Yeah.
journal, so I'm not doing content for
Very
others. I'm
similar.
doing content for me.
Yeah, that's great.
So-
it's just that discipline of
Yep.
getting what's here down on paper and then
It's
seeing
so
what you want to do with it.
therapeutic.
Yeah.
So therapeutic.
Yeah.
Okay, final question. If your life's work was being summarized in a news article,
Yes.
what would the headline be?
I think, and this, I'm going to read it. It is possible to be a creative CPA and not go to jail. I think that's what my headline
That was
would be.
awesome.
Well, thank you.
That was really good. I like that. And not go to jail. He's
Yeah.
not doing Enron,
It's,
guys.
in my career journey, especially like when I went on staff at the church, and people are like, "So you're kind of creative, but you were a CPA, like?" And I'm like, "I know creative CPAs usually go to jail."
Yeah.
I've been able to avoid that, so I think now I'd say it is possible.
It
You
is
can do
possible.
It is
I
possible.
agree.
Yeah.
I agree. How do
So,
people find you?
AdamTarnow.com, and if they want to find out, it's TARNOW. .com. You can go to myedgebook.com as well, and you can learn about the book. And I know when this episode comes out, the book will be ready. And so all kinds of other resources on myedgebook.com. But I'm on LinkedIn as well. Follow me on
Yep,
LinkedIn.
that's where I found you.
Yep, that's exactly right.
I love
So,
it. I love it. Well,
been a
here's
fun
to
conversation. Thank
connections.
you.
Yeah, for sure. So just one last thing to say to you. You are a VIP.
Oh, thank you.
And that's a wrap for today. Join us next week here on the We Are VIP podcast. We'd love to know how we can help you be a VIP. To find out more, log on to wearevip.com.